Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Today is November 4th, 2024, and this is episode 41 of MindMosaic. Welcome back, and it's a new month. It's a new theme, a new subject that we'll be exploring through, a new lens through which we will be able to view ourselves and the world, a new topic, a new area of inquiry. And this month, we will be diving into the world of language. That's right. Welcome to English class. I know, you dreaded it in high school, and now it's back. So, we'll have to make do, I suppose. So, what is language? We know it as words and sentences and phrases, conversations, but really, language is so much more than letters and sounds. Language is a framework for understanding reality. Languages themselves are frameworks for understanding reality. Whether it is, words or DNA or mathematics, these are all fundamentally the same things. They are blueprints. They are encoded sets of rules that govern the generation of these structures that bridge our consciousness with the outside world, and they are also the bridge between the subjective and the intangible. When we acknowledge language as a universal framework, we're acknowledging that language exists in many forms, most of which transcend our everyday ideas of what language is. For instance, DNA stores information through sequences of nucleotides and genetic. It's able to store and replicate genetic information, right? So that's information. Mathematics is the same thing. These are structures that are able to encode intangible sets of data and organize them into tangible frameworks that can be expressed, they can be replicated, they can be communicated, they can be shared, they can be understood by multiple, those who speak the language. So in this sense, language is not something that is confined to humans in any sense of the word. Language is a universal structure that underpins the natural world, and it is the principle that allows ideas to take shape, to be manifested into form. So understanding this sort of broader definition of what language is and what it can mean reveals that reality, in a sense, is this thing that arises from a set of encoded principles that we're constantly interpreting and reinterpreting. For instance, in mathematics, these principles are the laws of physics, which give rise to matter and govern how it operates, how energy, things like heat and light and gravity operate within the universe. In genetics, the language of DNA explains the physical body plans of animals. It describes how genetic information is inherited and passed on through a lineage of organisms. So the implications here are very vast. Reality, or I should say, to understand language deeply, to have a profound understanding of what language is, how it works, and what it has the ability to do, is in a way to understand reality itself. Now, from the perspective of Carl Jung, who was a very infamous psychologist from, I believe, the 20th century, he believed that language is not something that is fundamentally tied to individual human experience. He believed that language is something that is shared. The idea of language itself is something that is shared unconsciously across all humans, and that there are certain symbols, archetypes, and meanings that are universal and that transcend cultures and epochs. It's almost like he was pointing at or hinting at this primal language that we all share in some sort of deep subconscious way. And it's not a language of words, the way we typically understand language. It's a language of ideas, a language of symbols. It's a language of motifs that we understand, or that we tend to understand. It is kind of a lot like DNA in the sense that you could really describe it as like an ancient code that is shared across generations, and it's something that connects us to the shared human experience. It's something that we can access through our myths and our dreams and meditation and these kinds of practices. But really, it's this sort of common thread that links all of humanity together. So it's like this is suggesting that there are these sort of like mystical symbols that are encoded within us, and they are waiting to be expressed. We know these symbols as the archetypes of myth: the hero, the sage, the shadow, the self, the the adversary, the lover, the warrior, right? These are archetypes. The poet. These are archetypes that are waiting to be expressed through our myth making, but they are these sort of dormant, latent forces that cannot be realized until we give them the opportunity to be realized through language. And so that's really what language is words and stories serve as containers that we can scoop into the sort of reservoir of the collective human experience. And if we craft the container the right way, we might pull up something very valuable. Each of us has the ability and the potential to access, interact with, and form a relationship with these archetypes in our own personal way. And that's through inner exploration of your own psychological landscape, and also a sort of explorer's attitude, wanting to understand, categorize, label, dissect, unravel, and come to know these different parts of yourself, because that will allow you to gain a tremendous amount of insight into the world and your place in it, and also just like what it means to live as a human, what it means to be alive in this world, and to be able to come to terms with that and have like more of a compass. The idea of language as sort of this transformative power, or this transformative catalyst is maybe a better word for it. This aligns very well with the sort of Jungian theory and psychology. He believed that he used this word integration and individualization a lot. This is the idea of making the unconscious conscious. And this is sort of exactly what I'm talking about being an explorer in your own mind, and finding things and understanding things by making them conscious, by giving it a name, by giving it shape in some kind of way. We're able to form relationships with ourselves in these very dynamic and interesting ways. And this is the process of manifesting the self, of individuation, as Jung called it. And that's to bring consciousness fully to yourself, your whole self. That includes like parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed, parts of yourself that if you saw them now, you would see it as a stranger. But this is sort of the journey that I'm talking about, is having those conversations with yourself coming to understand yourself. Something that's very valuable, and it's done through this medium of language. Because remember, language is not just the words, it is the entire framework that we use to categorize and understand things. Without language, we would be it's almost impossible to describe. Without language, you would probably be most like a fleck of glitter in a hailstorm or a blizzard made of glitter. You would have no way of understanding your relationship with the world around you. It would be very homogeneous. So finally, I want to conclude with this idea of language being the bridge between the physical and the mystical, between the known and the unknown. The idea that the world is made of language is, I think, a good framework for understanding our relationship to language, because I think to think of language as a human creation places a lot of limitations on what you can do with language as an idea, as a concept. I think when you understand language as something universal that humans sort of tap into and create their own versions of, to put it in this box of, oh, this is just a utilitarian product of human creation, it puts a roadblock in the potential evolution of that as a concept. The languages of science and myth and philosophy, they all point towards this common goal of being able to, even for just a split second, glimpse this deeper sort of structure of reality, these deeper truths that form the scaffolding for this world that we know. Because language is something that connects and it's something that bridges, I think the path to the most profound level of language is by having the most general understanding of what language is on the most fundamental level. And that entails learning how to speak multiple languages. And I don't mean cultural languages. I mean intellectual languages. Learning to speak the language of music. Learning to speak the language of poetry. Learning to speak the language of science. The language of philosophy. The language of art. The language of psychology, right? Understanding these things allows you to find these common threads, these intersection points. And those nodes where these things overlap and cross are the most important areas, because they are like the shadows of this higher order. They are revealing a structure that exists on multiple levels. So it is kind of the revealing of a higher dimensional order, because it's seeing that even though there's these things on these layers, there are spots where these things are shared across layers, and that reveals this three-dimensional framework. Ultimately, I think learning multiple languages is the key, because that allows you to find the common threads, and where the common threads are and how they exist, like in their almost like structural makeup, will reveal the structural makeup of the higher order. I think what I'm getting at is that language is a bridge, it is a ladder, it is a path, it is a channel that will allow you to traverse the landscape of the mind. And that, depending on like your own like understanding, could mean so many different things, but let me just tell you, it means a lot. Like, it means probably more than you think it means. To be able to navigate the landscape of the mind is an incredibly profound ability to have. And language is the bridge. It is the path that will allow you to navigate all the different areas of the mind and of the consciousness. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, it's just that. It's just the task of exploring. Explore, symbols. Explore ideological and intellectual frameworks. Express yourself creatively. That's another huge thing. Meditate. Just inquire, I think, is the biggest thing. Ultimately, it's just about being curious and exploring frameworks, and finding the common threads and being curious. It's really what it is. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just keep inquiring, keep exploring, be curious, and remember that when you explore these kinds of things, you are sort of reaching across dimensions of mind. So yeah, just remember how cool that is, and also remember to enjoy the beauty of life and to not take things so seriously either. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next one. Hopefully this is a good month. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Take care, Earthlings. See you later. Do the thing. Do the language.